Have you ever wished life came with, a manual, a clear blueprint for how to succeed? Well, what if I told you that blueprint actually exists? Today, we're going to unlock an ancient command that holds the key to thriving in pretty much every area of your life.
Okay, so take a look at this. This right here, this is basically the whole blueprint in one simple graphic. It comes from a really critical final speech given to a whole new generation that was right on the verge of claiming its destiny. The core idea is simple, but wow, is it profound. What you truly hear, what you let sink in, is what shapes your heart. And your heart, well, that dictates the entire course of your life. It lays out two paths, one to blessing and the other to failure. So let's unpack how it all works.
All right, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to step into a really high-stakes historical moment. Then, we'll take a hard look at the mistakes that led to a 40-year detour. After that, we'll uncover the blueprint itself, the Shema, and see the incredible life it actually promises. And finally, and this is the most important part, we'll see how this ancient wisdom can become a personal blueprint for us, right here, right now.
So let's set the scene. I want you to imagine this. You're standing right at the edge of your destiny. Everything you've ever been promised is right there, within reach. But the generation before you, your own parents, they failed spectacularly. They never made it. So what would you need to hear in that moment to make sure you succeed where they didn't?
Well, this was the exact high-stakes situation facing Israel. For 40 long years, an entire generation had wandered the desert as a punishment for their lack of faith. And now their children are standing in that very same spot, facing the very same choice. Their leader, Moses, is about to deliver his final, most crucial message, a blueprint for not just surviving, but actually thriving. But before Moses gives them the solution, he needs them to really get the problem. He doesn't just hand them a rulebook. No, he holds up a mirror to their own painful history, showing them exactly where their parents went wrong. And the contrast is just jarring. Moses takes them right back to the moment it all fell apart, the disaster at Kadesh. See, God had promised them the land, but fear took over. A terrifying report from their spies made their faith just crumble. And that single moment of unbelief, it turned a journey of a few weeks into a punishment of 4 decades.
So here's the crucial point. Moses makes it crystal clear that their failure wasn't because the enemies were too strong. No, failure came from within, from their own sin and unbelief. And every single victory they ever had, well, that didn't come from their own strength either. It was solely the Lord's grace. This is the foundational lesson he absolutely needs them to grasp.
And he doesn't stop there. He reminds them of the golden calf, a huge moment of betrayal. He even points to his own failure, the mistake that's keeping him from entering the promised land. The lesson is brutally clear. Their greatest enemy wasn't some foreign army. It was their own divided heart. It was the internal temptation to forget who was truly in charge. And this brings us right to the heart of Moses' message. This is the master key, the blueprint that was designed to make sure this new generation would succeed. And it wasn't some complicated 10-point plan. It was one central, life-altering idea.
It all boils down to a single word, Shema. In Hebrew, it means hear or listen. But it's so much more than just letting sound enter your ears. It's a call to listen, to understand, and then to obey. It's the greatest commandment, the absolute core of their entire relationship with God, calling for an absolute, undivided, exclusive devotion.
Now, this command kind of has two sides. The positive side is a call to action, to actively and passionately love God with everything you have. But the negative side is just as important. It's about building a protective barrier. It means ruthlessly rejecting and destroying anything that competes for that devotion. No compromises, no divided loyalties, period. And crucially, Moses doesn't present this command like it's some heavy burden. He presents it as a key. He says this is the guaranteed path to blessing, to victory, and to a life of abundance. It's the key that unlocks the very future they desire.
Just look at the dynamic they were facing. On their own, they were hopelessly outmatched. The Canaanite armies were vastly superior in number and strength, but obedience to the Shema introduced a total game changer, the incomparable God. With him fighting for them, enemy numbers became totally irrelevant. It wasn't about the quantity of their soldiers, but the quality of their relationship with their protector.
So Moses lays out a very clear cause and effect relationship. The choice is simple, and the outcomes are predictable. Disobey and don't trust, the result is more wandering and defeat. The same exact path their parents took. but obey and trust. The result is blessing and victory. He frames obedience as the literal guarantee of victory.
And this principle extends far beyond the battlefield. Moses reminds them of those 40 years in the desert, where their food, their clothing, their shelter, it was all miraculously provided. He uses this powerful quote to teach them that true life, true sustenance, comes not just from physical food, but from a relationship of dependence on God's every word. Trusting Him is the source of life itself.
So what does an ancient pep talk have to do with us? Everything. This is where the blueprint becomes deeply personal, where we take this ancient wisdom and apply it to our own lives.
The Shema forces every one of us to ask a tough, honest question. In a world that is constantly screaming for our attention, our energy, and our loyalty, what are we truly placing in the most important position in our lives? What gets our best?
And the source material makes this incredibly practical. It lists all these modern pressures we all recognize: getting the best grades, excelling in activities, getting into that prestigious university, finding that high-paying job, earning more and more money. Now, none of these are bad things, but the Shema asks a challenging question. Have we allowed the pursuit of success to accidentally take the #1 spot in our hearts, overshadowing our devotion to what truly matters most?
Ultimately, the Shema is a call to surrender the pen. It's an invitation to stop trying to be the sole author of our own story and to trust the one who is described as incomparable. It's about trusting that His blueprint, His story for us, is infinitely better than our own, and that following it is the only true path to a life of genuine purpose, victory, and blessing. What will you choose?